we probably herein conclude the birth of Jesus, its date. It is answered that if the enrollment was made by tribes, a Jew of the house and lineage of David would make great exertions and sacrifices to present himself in his proper place and secure the recognition of his position. So the sacrifice being Mary's health, I guess. This motive would operate equally upon Joseph and Mary, as both were of the family of David. Quiet women have enormous reservoirs of determination. When one of them sets her heart on any course, it is only an insurmountable obstacle that can divert her. 5. Another objection is that Luke seems to say that this census did not take place until at least 10 years later, Luke 2:2. This brings us to the real difficulty in the passage. It is an objection urged by Dr. Strauss, but not by him fairly put. Leben Jesu 1:4-32. Let us examine this. Luke makes two statements. 1, that Augustus decreed a taxing. 2, that this taxing was made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. Let the distinction between the statements be noticed. Luke's statements seem contradictory, and, well, the New Testament has up to 8 differing views on anything. Most of the time it agrees, but obviously they're compiling something rather than it being revealed or inspired by any entity that's consistent or reliable. The first has been established above, as I think conclusively. The historian Luke asserts it, and there is nothing in history, so far as we now know, to cast the slightest discredit on it. The difficulty is to reconcile the second statement of Luke with his first, or to clear away somehow the difficulties of the passage. Cyrenius was governor 12 years after the date of the Nativity assigned above, and this passage seems to make the birth of Jesus to have occurred during his governorship. The following explanations are tendered. A. Herod undertook the census after the Jewish form, according to the imperial decree, but died before it was finished. The evangelist knew that as soon as a census was mentioned, persons conversant with Jewish history would think at once of the census which was held about 12 years later, after the banishment of Archelaus, which was notoriously a Roman census and caused an insurrection. Josephus's Antiquities 18:1-1, and therefore he added the second verse, which is equivalent to this. No census was actually completed then, and I knew that the first Roman census was had after the banishment of Archelaus, but the decree went out much earlier, namely in the time of Herod. This is the explanation of Dr. Thompson, Archbishop of York. So is that their explanation why of the stuff going on with Jesus when he was 12, that they finally finished the census? And B, Quirinius, it is said, may have been twice governor. Professor A.W. Zumpet of Berlin has published a work entitled Commentatio Deseria Romanorum Provincia a Caesare Augusto ad te Vespasianum, in which, by a long course of argument, he shows that it is probable Quirinius was twice governor, but then he makes his first term of office too late by several years to agree with our date of the Nativity. Lardner, Volume 1, 329, suggests, which is perhaps better, that he was a commissioner extraordinarily sent from Rome for the special purpose of superintending the census, and we learn from Tacitus that he had a special fitness for this kind of work and was at this time absent in the East. C. Relief is sought on the side of philology. The passage in the original, Luke 2:2, is auta, apographa, agoneto, prota, hagemem, hagemontas, tas, Sirias, cure hanion. The word agoneta may be translated was completed, as much as if Luke said, it was begun as an enrollment just before the birth of Jesus and completed years after under Quirinius, or prota may be translated before, and then the passage would mean this enrollment took place before that better known enrollment when Quirinius was governor of Syria. See Alford's Greek Testament in Noco. For other examples in Greek literature, de presenza refers to Thalak. Glaubwürdigkeit, page 181, and confesses him and confines himself to citing a specimen of the same construction in John 1:15, the words of John the Baptist, protas, mu han, he was before me. If this be received, it ends all difficulties. Let it be remembered that this is not approved in accuracy in Luke. It is only a difficulty and obscurity. Well, if they're mixing their accounts and they don't get something right, that's can be said to be inaccuracy, or at least a unknown factor of anything being reliable, at the very least. No man has shown that Augustus Caesar could not have ordered this census, nor that Quirinius absolutely could not have been governor when it was in process of execution. We know that he was governor years after the nativity, and that gubernatorial term we have been striving to reconcile Luke's statements. The whole difficulty arises from our ignorance, not from Luke's proved inaccuracy. All honest historical inquiries should admit that Luke, who lived near the time of what he narrates, well, we know now that there was no manuscript of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John until, depending on which one, 120 to 150. The first John was in the 90s. Same with the book of Revelation that they include in the Bible, is at least quite as competent a historian as the modern Dr. Strauss or the modern M. Renan. In this text, he's followed, see if Deems has followed the Codex Sinaiticus, the oldest authority in which prota is not separated from hakem antas, but immediately precedes it. Remember, now we've found that there were over 10,000 variants in the Greek portion of the Bible. whole verses were added in places. Sometimes it was just letters, and it seems very intentional rather than just scribal errors. A lot of what went on, but this passage has almost no importance in respect of the date of the Nativity, and therefore I did not discuss it in that connection. It is important as giving us a historical reason for the birth in the city of Bethlehem of the child whose parents were inhabitants of Nazareth. To a Jewish reader, this is vital, as those whom he treats as prophets had plainly pointed to Bethlehem as the place of the birth of the great deliverer. Jesus then was born in Bethlehem about the beginning of August, BCE 6, AUC 747. Now, of course, if you look at the other side of the Bible, you don't find any prediction of the Christian idea of divinity. So Jesus is their type of savior is not found anywhere. In fact, it's condemned all over the place. But